everybody. Thank you so much for coming back for another First Chapter Friday, even during April vacation week. So, this one is one that I won't be posting on our school site because it definitely is, I would say, an eighth grade up, maybe seventh grade up book. It is a fantastic mystery. It's written by somebody that is from New England, and it is One of Us is Lying. It's by Karen McManus, and she is someone who was gracious enough to do a Read, Rant, Repeat show interview with us. So I will have a link to that in our description. And then there was a really good trailer that I thought was made that I will have at the end of the video. So that trailer wasn't by us, but I thought it was really good. So, like I said, I'll just add that in. All right, so let's get going and enjoy this amazing thriller mystery. Part 1, Simon Says. Chapter 1, Bronwyn. Monday, September 24th, 2:55 p.m. A sex tape. A pregnancy scare. 2 cheating scandals. And that's just this week's update. If all you knew of Bayview High was Simon Kelleher's gossip app, you'd wonder how anyone found time to go to your class. "Old news, Bronwyn," says a voice over my shoulder. "Wait till you see tomorrow's post." Damn, I hate getting caught reading about that, especially by its creator. I lower my phone and slam my locker shut. "Whose lives are you ruining next, Simon?" Simon falls into step beside me as I move against the flow of students heading for the exit. "It's a public service," he says with a dismissive wave. "You tutor Reggie Crawley, don't you? Wouldn't you rather know he has a camera in his bedroom?" I don't bother answering. Me getting anywhere near the bedroom of perpetual stoner Reggie Crawley is about as likely as Simon growing a conscience. Anyway, they bring it on themselves. If people didn't lie and cheat, I'd be out of business. Simon's cold blue eyes take in my lengthening strides. "Where are you rushing off to? Covering yourself in extracurricular glory?" I wish. As if to taunt me, an alert crosses my phone. Mathlete practice 3 p.m. Epic coffee. Followed by a text from one of my teammates. "Evan's here." Of course he is. The cute mathlete, less of an oxymoron than you might think, seems to only ever show up when I can't. "Not exactly," I say. As a general rule, and especially lately, I try to give Simon as little information as possible. We push through green metal doors to the back stairwell, a dividing line between the dinginess of the original Bayview High and its bright, airy new wing. Every year, more wealthy families get priced out of San Diego and come 15 miles east to Bayview, expecting that their tax dollars will buy them a nicer school experience than popcorn ceilings and scarred linoleum. Simon's still on my heels when I reach Mr. Avery's lab on the 3rd floor, and I half turn with my arms crossed. "Don't you have some place to be?" "Yeah, detention," Simon says, and waits for me to keep walking. When I grasp the knob instead, he bursts out laughing. "You're kidding me. You too? What's your crime?" "I'm wrongfully accused," I mutter, and yank the door open. 3 other students are already seated, and I pause to take them in. Not the group I would have predicted, except for one, Nate. Nate Macaulay tips his chair back and smirks at me. "You make a wrong turn. This is detention, not student council." He should know. Nate's been in trouble since 5th grade, which is right about the time we last spoke. The gossip mill tells me he's on probation with Bayview's finest for something. It might be a DUI, it might be drug dealing. He's a notorious supplier, but my knowledge is purely theoretical. "Save the commentary!" Mr. Avery checks something off on a clipboard and closes the door behind Simon. High arched windows lining the back wall send triangles of afternoon sun splashing across the floor, and faint sounds of football practice float from the field behind the parking lot below. I take a seat as Cooper Clay, who's palming a crumpled piece of paper like a baseball, whispers, "Heads up, Addie," and tosses it toward a girl across from him. Addie Prentice blinks, smiles uncertainly, and lets the ball drop to the floor. The classroom clock inches towards 3, and I follow its progress with a helpless feeling of injustice. I shouldn't even be here. I should be at Epic Coffee, flirting awkwardly with Evan Neiman over differential equations. Mr. Avery is a give detention first, ask questions never kind of guy. But maybe there's still time to change his mind. I clear my throat and I start to raise my hand until I notice Nate's smirk broadening. "Mr. Avery, that wasn't my phone you found. I don't know how it got into my bag. This is mine," I say, brandishing my iPhone in its melon-striped case. Honestly, you'd have to be clueless to bring a phone to Mr. Avery's lab. He has a strict no-phone policy and spends the first 10 minutes of every class rooting through the backpacks like he's the head of airline security and we're all on the watch list. My phone was in my locker, like always. "You too?" Addie turns to me so quickly, her blonde shampooed hair swirls around her shoulders. She must have been surgically removed from her boyfriend in order to show up alone. "That wasn't my phone either." "Me three," Cooper chimes in. His southern accent makes it sound more like three. He and Addie exchange surprised looks, and I wonder how this is news to them when they're part of the same clique. Maybe the uber popular people have better things to talk about than unfair detentions. "Somebody punked us!" Simon leans forward, with his elbows on the desk, looking spring-loaded and ready to pounce on fresh gossip. His gaze darts over all 4 of us, clustered in the middle of the otherwise empty classroom, before settling in on Nate. "Why would anybody want to trap a bunch of students with mostly spotless records in detention? Seems like the sort of thing that, I don't know, a guy who's here all the time might do for fun." I looked at Nate, but I can't picture it. Rigging detention sounds like work, and everything about Nate, from his messy dark hair to his ratty leather jacket, screams "can't be bothered." Or yawns it, maybe. He meets my eyes but doesn't say a word, just tips his chair back even farther. Another millimeter and he'll fall right over. Cooper sits up straighter, a frown crossing his Captain America face. "Hang on, I thought this was just a mix-up, but if the same thing happened to all of us, is somebody's stupid idea of a prank, and I'm missing baseball practice because of it?" He says it like he's a heart surgeon being detained from a life-saving operation. Mr. Avery rolls his eyes. "Save the conspiracy theories for another teacher. I'm not buying it. You all know the rules against bringing phones to class, and you broke them." He gives Simon an especially sour glance. Teachers know about that exists, but there's not much they can do to stop it. Simon only uses initials to identify people and never talks openly about it in school. "Now listen up. You're here till 4. I want each of you to write a 500-word essay on how technology is ruining American high schools. Anyone who can't follow the rules gets another detention tomorrow." "What do we write with?" Addie asks. "There aren't any computers here." Most classrooms have Chromebooks, but Mr. Avery, who looks like he should have retired a decade ago, is a holdout. Mr. Avery crosses to Addie's desk and taps the corner of a lined yellow notepad. We all have one. "Explore the magic of longhand writing. It's a lost art." Addie's pretty heart-shaped face is a mask of confusion. But how do we know when we've reached 500 words? Count, Mr. Avery replies. His eyes drop to the phone I'm still holding. And hand that over, Miss Rojas. Doesn't the fact that you're confiscating my phone twice give you pause? Who has 2 phones? I ask. Nate grins. So quick I almost miss it. Seriously, Mr. Avery, somebody was playing a joke on us. Mr. Avery's snowy mustache twitches in annoyance, and he extends his hand with a beckoning motion. Phone, Miss Rojas. Unless you want a return visit. I give it over with a sigh as he looks disapprovingly at the others. The phones I took from the rest of you earlier are in my desk. You'll get 'em back after detention. Addie and Cooper exchange amused glances, probably because their actual phones are safe in their backpacks. Mr. Avery tosses my phone into a drawer and sits behind the teacher's desk, opening a book as he prepares to ignore us for the next hour. I pull out a pen, tap it against my yellow notepad, and contemplate the assignment. Does Mr. Avery really believe technology is ruining schools? That's a pretty sweeping statement to make over a few contraband phones. Maybe it's a trap, and he's looking for us to contradict him instead of agreeing? I glance at Nate, who's bent over his notepad writing, "Computers suck," over and over in block letters. It's possible I'm overthinking this. Cooper, Monday, September 24th, 3:05 p.m. My hand hurts within minutes. It's pathetic, I guess, but I can't remember the last time I wrote anything longhand. Plus, I'm using my right hand, which never feels natural, no matter how many years I've done it. My father insisted I learn to write right-handed in 2nd grade after he saw me pitch. Your left arm's gold, he told me. Don't waste it on crap that don't matter. Which is anything but pitching as far as he's concerned. That's when he started calling me Cooperstown, like the Baseball Hall of Fame. Nothing like putting a little pressure on an 8-year-old. Simon reaches for his backpack and roots around, unzipping every section. He hoists it onto his lap and peers inside. Where the hell's my water bottle? No talking, Mr. Kelleher, Mr. Avery says without looking up. I know, but my water bottle's missing, and I'm thirsty. Mr. Avery points towards the sink at the back of the room, its counter crowded with beakers and petri dishes. Get yourself a drink, quietly. Simon gets up and grabs a cup from the stack on the counter, filling it with water from the tap. He heads back to his seat and puts the cup on his desk, but seems distracted by Nate's methodical writing. Dude, he says, kicking his sneaker against the leg of Nate's desk. Seriously, did you put those phones in our backpacks to mess with us? Now, Mr. Avery looks up from it. I said quietly, Mr. Kelleher. Nate leans back and crosses his arms. Why would I do that? Simon shrugs. Why did you do anything? So you'd have company for whatever your screw-up of the day was? One more word out of either of you and it's detention tomorrow, Mr. Avery warns. Simon opens his mouth anyway, but before he can speak, there's a sound of tires squealing and then the crash of 2 cars hitting each other. Eddie gasps and I brace myself against my desk like somebody just rear-ended me. Nate, who looks glad for the interruption, is the first on his feet toward the window. Who gets into a fender bender in the school parking lot? He asks. Bronwyn looks at Mr. Avery like she's asking for permission, and when he gets up from his desk, she heads for the window as well. Ada follows her, and I finally unfold myself from my seat. Might as well see what's going on. I lean against the ledge to look outside, and Simon comes up beside me with a disparaging laugh as he surveys the scene below. 2 cars,
An old red one and a nondescript gray one are smashed into each other at a right angle. We all stare at them in silence, till Mr. Avery lets out an exasperated sigh. "I'd better make sure nobody was hurt." He runs his eyes over all of us and zeroes in on Bronwyn as the most responsible of the bunch. "Miss Rojas, keep this room contained until I get back." "Okay," Bronwyn says, casting a nervous glance toward Nate. We stay at the window, watching the scene below, but before Mr. Avery or another teacher appears outside, both cars start their engines and drive out of the parking lot. "Well, that was anticlimactic," Simon says. He heads back to his desk and picks up his cup, but instead of sitting, he wanders to the front of the room and scans the periodic table of elements poster. He leans out the hallway like he's about to leave, but then he turns and raises his cup like he's toasting us. "Anyone else want some water?" "I do," Addie says, slipping into her chair. "Get yourself, princess." Simon smirks. Addie rolls her eyes and stays put, while Simon leans against Mr. Avery's desk. "Literally, huh? What'd you do to yourself now that homecoming's over? Big gap between now and senior prom." Addie looks at me without answering. I don't blame her. Simon's train of thought almost never goes anywhere good when it comes to our friends. He acts like he's above caring whether he's popular, but he's pretty smug when he wound up on the junior prom court last spring. I'm still not sure how he pulled that off, unless they traded keeping secrets for votes. Simon was nowhere to be found on the homecoming court last week, though. I was voted in, so maybe I'm next on his list to harass or whatever the hell he's doing. "What's your point, Simon?" I ask, sitting a seat next to Addie. Addie and I aren't close exactly, but I kind of feel protective of her. She's been dating my best friend since freshman year, and she's a sweet girl. Also, not the kind of person who knows how to stand up to a guy like Simon who just won't quit. "She's a princess and you're a jock," he says. He thrusts his chin toward Bronwyn and then Nate. "And you're a brain and you're a criminal. You're all walking teen movie stereotypes." "What about you?" Bronwyn asks. She's been hovering near the window, but now goes to her desk and perches on top of it. She crosses her legs and pulls her dark ponytail over one shoulder. Something about her is cuter this year. New glasses, maybe? Longer hair? All of a sudden, she's kind of working this sexy nerd thing. "I'm the omniscient narrator," Simon says. Bronwyn's brows rise above her black frames. "There's no such thing in teen movies." "Ah, but Bronwyn," Simon winks and chugs his water in one long gulp, "there is such a thing in life." He says it like a threat, and I wonder if he's got something on Bronwyn for that stupid app of his. I hate that thing. Almost all my friends have been on it at one point or another, and sometimes it causes real problems. My buddy Louis and his girlfriend broke up because of something Simon wrote, though it was a true story about Louis hooking up with that girl's cousin. But still, that stuff doesn't have to be published. Hallway gossip is bad enough. And if I'm being honest, I'm pretty freaked out at what Simon could write about me if he put his mind to it. Simon holds his cup up, grimacing. "This tastes like crap." He drops the cup, and I roll my eyes at his attempt at drama. Even when he falls to the floor, I think he's messing around. But then the wheezing starts. Bronwyn's on her feet first, then kneeling beside him. "Simon," she says, shaking his shoulder. "Are you okay? What's happened? Can you talk?" Her voice goes from concerned to panicky, and that's enough to get me moving. But Nate's faster, shoving past me and crouching next to Bronwyn. "A pen," he says, his eyes scanning Simon's brick-red face. "Do you have a pen?" Simon nods wildly, his hand clawing at his throat. I grabbed a pen off my desk and I tried to hand it to Nate, thinking he's about to do an emergency tracheotomy or something. Nate just stares at me like I have two heads. An EpiPen, he says, searching for Simon's backpack. He's having an allergic reaction. Addie stands and wraps her arms around her body, not saying a word. Bronwyn turns to me, face flushed. I'm going to find a teacher and call 911. Stay with him, okay? She grabs her phone out from Mr. Avery's drawer and runs into the hallway. I kneel next to Simon. His eyes are bugging out of his head. His lips are blue, and he's making horrible choking noises. Nate dumps the entire contents of Simon's backpack on the floor and scrabbles through the mess of books and papers and clothes. Simon, where do you keep it? He asks, tearing open a small front compartment and yanking out 2 regular pens and a set of keys. Simon's way past talking, though. I put one sweaty palm on his shoulder, like that'll do any good. You okay? You're gonna be okay. We're getting help. I can hear my voice slowing, thickening like molasses. My accent always comes out harder when I'm stressed. I turn to Nate and I ask, you sure he's not choking on something? Maybe he needs the Heimlich maneuver, not a freaky medical pen. Nate ignores me, tossing Simon's empty backpack aside. F! He yells, slamming his fist on the floor. Do you keep it on you, Simon? Simon! Simon's eyes roll back in his head as Nate digs around in Simon's pockets, but he doesn't find anything except a wrinkled Kleenex. Sirens blare in the distance as Mr. Avery and 2 other teachers race in with Bronwyn trailing behind him on her phone. We can't find his EpiPen, Nate says tersely, gesturing to the pile of Simon's things. Mr. Avery stares at Simon in slack-jawed horror for a second, and then turns to me. Cooper, the nurse's office has EpiPens. They should be labeled in plain sight. Hurry! I run into the hallway, hearing footsteps behind me that fade as I quickly reach the back stairwell and yank the door open. I take the stairs 3 at a time until I'm on the first floor, and then I weave through a few straggling students till I get to the nurse's office. The door's ajar, but nobody's there. It's a cramped little space with the exam table up against a window and a big gray storage cabinet looming to my left. I scan the room, my eyes landing on 2 wall-mounted white boxes with red block lettering. One reads Emergency Defibrillator, the other Emergency Epinephrine. I fumble at the latch on the second one and pull it open. There's nothing inside. I open the other box, which has a plastic device with a picture of a heart. I'm pretty sure that's not it, so I start rummaging through the gray storage cabinet, pulling out boxes of bandages and aspirin. I don't see anything that looks like a pen. Cooper, did you find them? Miss Grayson, one of the teachers who entered the lab with Mr. Avery and Bronwyn, barrels into the room. She's panting hard and clutching her side. I gesture toward the empty wall-mounted box. They should be there, right? But they're not. Check the supply cabinet, Miss Grayson says, ignoring the Band-Aid boxes scattered around the floor that prove I've already tried. Another teacher joins us, and we tear the office apart as the sound of sirens gets closer. When we open the last cabinet, Miss Grayson wipes a trickle of sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. Cooper, let Mr. Avery know we haven't found anything yet. Mr. Contos and I will keep looking. I get to Mr. Avery's lab the same time the paramedics do. There are 3 of them in their Navy uniforms, 2 pushing a long white stretcher, 1 racing ahead to clear the small crowd that's gathered around the door. I wait until they're all inside, and I slip in behind them. Mr. Avery slumped next to the chalkboard, his yellow dress shirt untucked. We couldn't find the pens, I tell him. He runs a shaking hand through his thin white hair as one of the paramedics stabs Simon with the syringe, and the other 2 left him onto the stretcher. God help that boy, he whispers. More to himself than to me, I think. Addie's standing off to the side by herself, tears rolling down her cheeks. I cross over to her and I put an arm round her shoulders as the paramedics maneuver Simon's stretcher into the hallway. "Can you come along?" one asks Mr. Avery. He nods and follows, leaving the room empty, except for a few shell-shocked teachers and the 4 of us who started detention with Simon. Barely 15 minutes ago, by my guess, but it feels like hours. Is he okay now?" Addie asked in a strangled voice. Bronwyn clasps the phone between her palms, like she's using it to pray. Nate stands with his hands on his hips, staring at the door as more teachers and students start trickling inside. "I'm going to go out on a limb and say no," he says.
So I hope you are intrigued. It was such a good opener. I thought that the characters were all very cliche, but they were meant to be because the author felt like her inspiration had come from the Breakfast Club. So hopefully you didn't mind my rendition of the voices. And I did do my best to be Southern. Sorry if I've offended anybody. I didn't mean to, but that was my best. Um, I also hope that you check out that trailer that I am going to add and that you read the rest of the book because, oh my gosh, it is so good. Layers and layers of secrets that are uncovered. And it's not your typical mystery, it's just amazing. Okay. There's a lot of hoopla coming out about it right now because it's coming out as a series on Peacock. It should be coming out in 2021, but there's no 100% given date. But definitely 2021, actors and directors, everything's been selected. I even think it's all been filmed. So keep posted. Peacock coming soon in 2021 and read the book before you see it. All right. Have a great day and see you next Friday.